what I'm doing there is I'm training them in what's right
Right.
rather than just rebuking them for what is wrong.
You've got your kids to the point where you're asking the heart-probing questions. How do you then, especially when it comes to conflict, how do you teach your kids to resolve conflict biblically?
Okay, so we've already we always want to start with the heart probing questions because that's going to help them get past that outward behavior and figure out what is going on in the heart. So, with Wesley aggravating Alex, Wesley was my aggravator, let me just say this, and Alex was my tattletale. God was so gracious to bless me with one of each. And so, but the way that I taught them to resolve conflict biblically, our goal is that they can do it on their own. So,
Right.
and the way I accomplish this is through the use of role playing. That's going to start teaching them how to do it on their own. Now, at first, it's going to involve us helping them to do it. But role playing is a great way of teaching children how to resolve any kind of conflict because role playing is an extremely effective tool in training them how to put what they're learning, what you're telling them into practice. When they put that knowledge gained into practice, it actually becomes part of their lives. And that training is going to stick better when they learn how to use it in a hands-on situation. So just for the sake of time, let me just give you a quick example of how I used role playing to teach my kids how to resolve conflict biblically. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to stick to the same scenario that I just gave you.
Sure.
All right. So although Alex started out as the victim, with the lion game, with Wesley chasing her through the house, Alex was still sinful in how she responded. So let's go back to the scene. Alex is being chased down the hall by the ferocious lion, and she is screaming and crying. And here's where the tattletale part comes in as she leads that lion right to Mama's feet. You know what she's doing. And of course, her voice is amplified as if at the other end of the house instead of right in front of her. And she screams at the top of her lungs, Wesley's being mean to me. Now, that was a very mild impression because I told you Alex is very dramatic. It was usually blood curdling.
Right.
and and Alex coming to me and screaming that, what she's done there is she has become what the Bible calls a talebearer, or as we say today, a tattletale. And it seems that she would very much like to see her brother in serious trouble. So I have Wesley. I've already heart probed him with aggravating his sister. So now I want to heart probe her, and then I'm going to walk you through how to resolve it, teach them how to resolve it biblically. But you always want to start with the heart probing questions. So Alex is tattling. This is going to help those mamas out there listening that have the tattletale. Okay, so I would probe her heart with something very simple like, Alex, honey, have you asked your brother in private to stop chasing you? Did you try to work this out with him before you brought it to me? And she says no. And then I ask, Alex, honey, would you rejoice in seeing your brother get in trouble? Now, she looked as if she were considering that and leaning toward the yes end of it. And so I reminded her about Proverbs 17:5. And all of these verses are in my Wise Words for Moms chart. Okay. So it's not like you have to think of them on your own. They're already organized in that chart for you. So I reminded her about Proverbs 17:5, which is under the category of tattling. And that verse says, he who is glad at calamity will not go unpunished. Now, calamity is a big word. And she was a little girl at this point. So I phrased it in a way that she could understand. I just said something like, sweetheart, if you are delighting in getting your brother in trouble, then you will get in trouble. And in our home, the tattler faced the same consequences as the other child. And so, and then here's what I'm talking about where the role playing comes into play. And this is going to teach them how to resolve conflict biblically. Rather than telling both of them what they should have done and then just leaving it at that, I took it a step further and I had both of them go and put that verbal training into practice. And let me just explain to you how very, very simple. This may sound complicated, but it is so not. How very simple this is. I just simply had both of them go back to the scene of the crime where the lion first began the attack. And I actually put the words in Alex's mouth. It's okay to do that. They're little. They don't know how to communicate the right way. They don't know how to communicate with self-control. And so you can model that for them and actually give them the words to say and the tone to say it in if necessary. And so this is how easy it is. I said, Alex, tell Wesley, please stop chasing me and growling at me. And she said, please stop chasing me and growling at me. I said, Wesley, tell your sister, okay. And he said, okay. It is that simple. It's not always easy to be consistent in implementing, but it really is simple and it really doesn't take that much time to do that. But by doing this, by having them go back and do it the right way, what I'm doing there is I'm training them in what's right
Right.
rather than just rebuking them for what is wrong. I'm
Yeah.
teaching them to put off corrupt and deceitful desires and to put on the holiness and the righteousness of God. So, all that to say, no matter what the conflict is, whether it's aggravating one another, arguing, tattling, the key to teaching them how to resolve conflict biblically is to simply just walk them through how to do it.
Yeah.
When we just say as parents things like, which is wrong to do this, when we say things like, stop aggravating your sister or you're going to get it, or go to your rooms until you can stop arguing. And don't think I haven't been guilty of those things, because I have. Even though I knew better, I still was guilty of some of those things sometimes. Or something like, no TV tonight until you guys can get along better. When we do that, we're not training and instructing.
Yeah.
1 Corinthians 13:5 says that when we're tempted, God always provides us with a way out. He always gives us a means of escape.
Yeah.
And so we want to do that with our kids. We don't want to just tell them what not to do. We want to give them that means of escape, provide them with that way out by teaching them what to do. So we want to walk them through what is right and require them to practice it. And that's how we teach them to resolve conflict biblically.